great topographical barriers didn't deter the tenacious railway builders of the Victorian era, with 50 tunnels more than a mile in length driven during the 1800s. One of them passes 400 feet below the West Yorkshire village of Queensbury. Neglected for 70 years since closure claimed it, time has not been kind to the structure, with localised areas of distress and 2 partial collapses. It's perhaps surprising then that Queensbury Tunnel finds itself embroiled in a battle between the collective forces of a government department and state-owned Goliath on one side, determined to rid themselves of a perceived liability, and community campaigners on the other, equally determined to derive value from any public investment in this historic hulk of civil engineering. The moral victory has already been won. Over 13 years, those campaigners turned around the scepticism of local stakeholders, making a compelling case to repurpose the tunnel as the centrepiece of what Sustrans, now the Walkwheel Cycle Trust, has described as an iconic and nationally significant active travel network, connecting Bradford and Keighley with Halifax. The potential benefits are considerable, with the most advantageous version of the network offering £3 in social, economic and tourism benefits for every £1 invested. High value for money, according to the government. As a visitor attraction, it would rival Bath's 2 Tunnels Greenway and Derbyshire's Monsell Trail. But the unique selling point here is the potential to encourage commuters out of their cars and onto foot or bike. The tunnel establishes a safe flat route between 2 population centres separated by a big hill, and as such has real strategic importance.
Yeah, you can see where the entrance bit's been done, can't you?
An amazing engineering structure that was built for a purpose of connectivity. Let's use that to connect these towns and villages together again for the public good. Queensbury Tunnel would allow people to be able to travel to work and safely to school. We know how busy the roads are at the moment. It would be just lovely to have an alternative, and especially an easy alternative for people to be able to use who aren't necessary cyclists as well.
The case for retention of the tunnel as a future transport asset is convincing. It's unique and irreplaceable. The cost of driving a new tunnel would be prohibitive. But there is a cultural barrier. Civil servants in the Department for Transport, the tunnel's owner, and National Highways, the unlikely custodian of this former railway structure, have contrived a case for abandonment by distorting the available evidence. In 2021, a 3-year programme of strengthening works ended, making the structure safe for future reuse. That cost the taxpayer £7.3 million. But in July 2025, Lillian Greenwood MP, then the Minister for the Future of Roads, decided to commit a further £7.5 million of public money to a scheme that would see around 6% of the tunnel being blocked up, putting it permanently beyond use, and the remainder left to collapse. In a letter to campaigners on the 6th of January, the Minister asserted that we must focus expenditure on initiatives that improve people's lives in tangible ways. But abandonment improves nothing for anybody. If it goes ahead, £15 million will have been spent on the tunnel without the taxpayer seeing a penny in benefit. The opportunity to deliver high value for money through repurposing would be lost.
Frankly, we can't understand the drive to destroy the tunnel. It just seems as though some bureaucrats want to tick a box and shelve responsibility, when what they could do, if they talk to the Minister in a positive way, is to propose that the tunnel is passed on to a different custodian who understands the potential of active travel and the greenway that it could become part of.
So, what is the case for abandonment? According to a presentation given by the Minister to stakeholders on the 22nd of July 2025, the tunnel lining continues to deteriorate, resulting in falling masonry. But inspection evidence suggests any deterioration is minor and very localised. National Highways cannot confidently assess the pace at which the tunnel is deteriorating. But that's because it's chosen to suspend inspections on the basis of an implausible observation by an examiner that hasn't been investigated. The tunnel shafts have deteriorated, But inspections record the shaft linings as being in mostly fair condition, and their bases were strengthened in 2020 using a system with a 60-year design life, according to National Highways. There is a risk of shafts collapsing, leading to potential destruction of infrastructure above the tunnel. But such an event would be unprecedented, and there is no viable mechanism for this to occur, given the specific circumstances at Queensbury. There is a risk of lining collapse leading to potential loss of life for any individual in the tunnel. But lining collapses are extremely rare, and access into the tunnel is restricted. Dangerous gases collect in the tunnel, but when asked, National Highways was unable to provide any supporting evidence from the past 5 years. Flooding extends into the middle of the tunnel, but this can be resolved by restarting a pumping station which was closed down after National Highways failed to pay the £50 annual rent for 3 consecutive years. The Minister has also claimed that there are less costly greenway options which do not use the tunnel that would provide the same or similar active travel benefits. But she's referring to a surface alignment which is almost twice as long as the tunnel route, involves 640 feet of climbing, several interfaces with busy roads, and is described by Sustrans as highly compromised. It will be neither safe nor attractive for most users. At every opportunity, the tunnel's currently low-risk profile was inflated or misrepresented, and its benefits hidden or played down. And then there's the issue of cost. In 2016, National Highways provided a high-level estimate for Queensbury Tunnel's repair of £35.4 million, prompting stakeholders to withdraw their support for the Greenway proposal. But a DFT review carried out by London and Continental Railways found that the costing was simply too high to be credible and had been engineered to make the case for abandonment. In 2020, the state-owned roads company was asked again to cost repair, this time coming up with a price of £22.3 million. In both cases, the work involved spraying most of the tunnel with concrete, destroying its heritage value. But in 2018, consultants AECOM, commissioned by Bradford Council, carried out a series of investigations in the tunnel, forming the basis of a proportionate, sympathetic and defect-specific repair costing of just £6.9 million. Allowing for inflation and a section of the tunnel that was inaccessible at the time, that figure is now around £8.7 million, but this was never put to the Minister. Queensbury Tunnel is a complex and challenging structure, a reality compounded by years of mismanagement. Whether the outcome is abandonment or repurposing, there are no cheap options here. What's beyond question, however, is that this is an existing transport asset of considerable scale and value. There's no going back if it's put beyond use. That should impose an obligation for careful, objective and holistic decision-making. But it was nothing of the kind. The evidence was skewed, and the Minister bought it. Abandonment proposals were submitted to Bradford Council for planning permission in 2019 and have since attracted more than 8,100 objections, but they've become undeliverable due to the flooding at the tunnel's south end. National Highways now claims that maintenance responsibility for this part of the structure lies with the company that bought the land above it in 1965, but the conveyance document makes no such provision and doesn't even offer a right of access to carry out works. Queensbury Tunnel has descended into farce as distant bureaucrats struggle to push their favoured negative outcome over the line. Revised plans for abandonment are expected and likely to involve a cutback scheme, leaving a higher level of residual risk. For the community, the fight goes on.
What do we want? Save the tunnel! When do we want it? Now!
One gloomy Sunday in January saw more than 200 supporters gather in the northern approach cutting to hear MPs, councillors and stakeholders stand up for the Victorian feat. Opponents heard an unambiguous message.
It would be the craziest thing in the world now is to pour concrete in it. Just thinking, if we don't know where things are going in the future, why would you destroy a resource like this now when we know that we've got to be supporting more people cycling and walking? We need people to be looking at different ways of getting around communities. So it was such a short-sighted solution.
whilst this tunnel is standing, there is still hope and everything to play for. But I want to really, really thank Queensbury Tunnel Society for all the work and their persistence and their campaign and their passion behind saving something which is so important to the people of Bradford and beyond. It is our British heritage and it deserves to stay.
Over the last 25 years.
When money is tight and millions despair at out-of-touch decision-makers, it's inexplicable to waste enormous sums on projects of no benefit, trampling over good people trying to make a difference. Those whose outlook is one-dimensional see Queensbury Tunnel as a physical and financial black hole. But others with a broader perspective also understand the opportunities it presents. There is a positive alternative here, one that offers hope to overlooked communities and an inspiring resource for generations to come. If spent wisely, the funds committed to abandonment could substantially pay for the tunnel's repair. From there, delivery of the active travel network and all that comes with it is within reach. What happens next will expose the true priorities of the current government.